Well, just today, after signaling new tariffs were coming, President Trump has carried through on his threat, with a fresh round of levies on key metals imports escalating a brewing global trade war.
So essentially, we're putting on a 25% tariff without exception on all aluminum and all steel. And it's going to mean a lot of businesses are going to be opening in the United States.
Trump also warning the rate on metals tariffs could go higher. Reciprocal levies may be coming in the next 2 days, as well as more measures on other sectors, including cars and chips. The metals tariffs are expected to go into effect March 4th and will apply to all U.S. imports of the two metals, including from Canada and Mexico. Still, Trump hinted Australia may get an exemption.
We have a surplus with Australia, one of the few. And the reason is they buy a lot of airplanes. They are rather far away, and they need lots of airplanes. And we actually have a surplus. It's one of the only countries which we do. And I told him that that's something that we will give great consideration to.
Let's get perspective from Jennifer Hillman, co-director of the Center on Inclusive Trade and Development. She recently served on the World Trade Organization's appellate body and as a commissioner at the U.S. International Trade Commission. Jennifer, good to have you with us. We know that, Trump is rewriting the global trade book. I'm just wondering as well, with those tariffs, it pushes the U.S. to its most protectionist stance since World War II. How are you reading Trump's tariffs so far? How legal are they?
Well, I would argue that they're not legal either under U.S. law or arguably under any other international law. I mean, the United States committed as part of being a member of the WTO that it would charge only the amount of tariff that is in its actual tariff schedule, part of a negotiated bargain where the United States said, we'll lower our tariffs on certain products if you'll lower yours on something else. And at the result of that big sets of bargaining over a number of years, the United States set its tariff schedule at an absolute level. For example, on products involving steel, the United States' tariff rate is set at 0% duty. So anything that we charge above zero is a violation of that particular binding tariff commitment. And yes, there are certain exemptions under the WTO rules if you've shown that the imports, for example, are being dumped into your market or the imports are being the result of subsidies coming into your market, you can put other duties on. And the U.S. has done that frequently with respect to China. But what those rules do not allow you to do is what Trump has done here, which is to say 25% tariffs on all steel and all aluminum from everyone in the world. That is an absolute breaking of our commitments as part of the WTO. It also breaks the commitments that the United States made to its free trade agreement partners, like Canada and Mexico and Australia and Korea, all of which are major suppliers of steel and aluminum to the United States as part of a free trade agreement. I mean, the word free basically means free of tariffs. You're supposed to have zero duties on steel and aluminum. So in this action, President Trump has also violated all of the commitments that the U.S. made in all of its free trade agreements.
Jennifer, we know that Trump's pet peeve is trade surplus. And part of the reason for that trade surplus is that countries and companies find it attractive to be investing in the U.S. It is an attractive market for them. The reverse may not necessarily be good for the U.S.
Oh, you're totally correct. In fact, many economists would say that if anything, some of these trade deficits are an indication of how strong the U.S. economy is, what good shape it's in. They are not a sign of weakness or that countries are taking advantage of the United States or many of the other things that President Trump is saying. So many would say that he's just wrong about this notion that you should judge, if you will, everything by whether or not we're running a trade deficit with a given country or not. And it is not the case that most people believe that any country with whom we have a trade deficit is somehow cheating or stealing from the United States. Again, when we import these goods, American consumers are getting goods that they wanted to buy. So again, I just think on this point, Trump is wrong to fixate on these trade deficits in the way that he is.
What does it mean for global trade in the end? What does it mean for global economy? I mean, we're already seeing tit for tat, and that's not good news. Are we looking at a potential depression for the global economy, you think? How might this play out?
So again, I don't know, but again, it's very, very worrying to everyone. And again, if you look at the studies that the IMF and the World Bank and the WTO and others have put out, they have clearly indicated that if we go down this path of fragmenting everyone into these kind of trading blocks and creating all of these barriers to trade, that fragmentation alone has the potential to reduce global GDP by up to 5 percentage points and GDP for many of the developing countries by 10 or 12%. So this is a dangerous path to be on in terms of what it says about economic growth. And so the issue, I think, for the whole world is how do we best get off of this path?